And we're live. And with us today on the corner, we got Seb.
Hey,
Hey, man. And on this episode, we will be discussing a little bit about BoJack and the last season of BoJack, which I believe was season 6.
yes, season 6.
Yeah, I thought that was like maybe the best season because it showed so well BoJack's character from bottom
Mm.
and on top.
Well, I think the thing about season 6 is it could have easily sort of everything sort of relied on that season to top the show off because just the whole sort of philosophy of the show is talking about how there's never a real end to things. You can't just simply there's always the tomorrow morning after the big event, the wedding, the funeral, whatever. And I feel like the last season obviously had to counter that. It could have gone really wrong. It could have had a sort of a sappy message at the end or a too dark message at the end, which sort of downplayed that point. But I think, yeah, it handled it perfectly. So yeah, I think I'd really agree with you. I think that it's the best season of them all.
Yeah, because it shows like the character BoJack actually reflecting upon his own life and realizing
Mm,
those mistakes.
mm,
And for those that like can remember this show, then this season starts with, I don't remember that he comes out of rehab because I think that the last
uh,
season starts with that ends with him going into rehab. Yeah,
yeah, it's a bit complicated because it's split into two parts, a bit like well, it went on a hiatus. But yeah, it starts with him entering rehab and then sort of, yeah, then coming out of rehab. And
right.
uh,
Because season 5 ended with him being driven to the rehab, and then
yes.
we have a couple of episodes with him in the
Hmm.
rehab, and it shows perfectly clearly what kind of a narcissist this person is.
Yeah, well, yeah, he looks through it's there's this whole look on his life and what caused sort of what influenced him, like that whole the episode where it's saying when was the first time you drank, and we're seeing all these different times as he gets younger and younger. We're seeing these times when he drank alcohol, how it affected him, and sort of how that showed how he
Oh
saw it.
yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. Because it actually started like really, really young, and then
mm,
he was reintroduced to it on cruising
mm.
around. Yeah,
And it's
uh,
sort of, yeah, and I think that's so interesting because like for the first time, I mean it's not it's even sort of hinted that the last time you see it when he's a young boy and he's drinking it and then cuddles with his mother. I think it's even hinted then that's not the first time. Like he drinks this alcohol with ease. He opens it pretty easy. But anyway, yeah.
yeah.
It's
It also definitely had an impact on him that Sarah Lynn actually died
mm,
because
oh for sure.
do you remember that, you know that she actually had her life clean, turned around and
Yes.
stuff, and then he decides to re-enter the life and being like,
Mm,
yeah, fuck it, join, and then we're gonna do some dope and drink like bottles of tequila and vodka and everything.
mm. Well, I think
Uh,
it's really interesting thinking of who has that that blame, so to speak. I mean,
yeah,
it is sort of it's made clear that she was intending to fall back after. I mean, she says it herself that she went sober so that
yeah.
later it could be. But BoJack was the enabler. BoJack was the one who drove her to
Uh,
this.
yeah,
Yeah,
to
who enabled was with her. Yeah.
drove her to relapse. Yeah,
Hmm. And he. And even if we're not going to think about that particular bender that they both went through, just the overwhelming influence that BoJack has had on her life in general. There's
There was also interesting that he apparently waited to call 911.
Oh, that was that's that. Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know what to think of that, honestly.
apparently he waited 20 minutes or something before calling.
17 minutes,
17
yeah.
minutes, yeah. And I didn't feel like we got like a clear answer as to why.
Well, I think he waited 17 minutes so that there would be this, because he knew that the autopsy would show pretty specifically when she died. So if he immediately called the ambulance, they'd be thinking, how did you know so quickly that that she was in trouble? How did you do it almost immediately? So him calling the ambulance was a way of, in case she was going to die anyway. It's a horrible thing he did. But of course, but it was a way.
This was again the narcissistic side of him.
Incredibly selfish, incredibly narcissistic. Yeah.
And to think that like this was also a lifetime friend that he had known almost his entire life.
Person who looks at him almost as a father figure in many ways. I mean, it's an incredibly complicated relationship, but when it comes down to it, yes, someone who, BoJack had a responsibility to and completely failed in that responsibility.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
I would like think that he would have thought about this also in prison, but what I want to get to is that she was in a way kind of like in the same downward spiral as him. Being like famous alcoholic junkie and relapsing multiple times and rehab multiple times. So I was like thinking that maybe it could have like reflected on him the way that this could have actually been him, right? But him being a horse is lucky since he can take a lot more shit than a human.
That's something I've never thought about before, because like they make a joke, I think, in the first season, BoJack saying it takes a lot of alcohol to get me drunk, and then saying I'm drunk anyway. But I'm now thinking about that. Yeah, if he was human himself, he would very likely have also
been dead because of excessive use. Yeah,
at the very least needed an ambulance, and that's. I imagine that's something neither of them considered when they were on the bend of it. Yeah, that's just yet another way. I sort of.
It is.
So unfair on Sarah Lynn.
Yeah, that had to happen that way to her. Yeah.
What did you think of the view from halfway down?
Halfway down. What was halfway down again?
The penultimate episode, the episode before last, where BoJack's in the pool hallucinating. Yeah, when he's hallucinating, and he's sort of in a dreamland of all his deceased friends.
That's right.
And trying to confront his own mortality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a weird episode.
Oh, so weird, but
because it was just completely out of character for the show to have halluc. Well, maybe not.
Well, I don't know about that. They've had their fair share.
but like out of character for the viewer to like be like, oh, what are we watching here? Oh, like right, BoJack is hallucinating, and seeing all his.
Well, it takes a moment, as you're trying to work out with him sort of what's exactly happening.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely because that was a terrifying episode.
Yeah.
I think
because
I remember
in this entire episode he is laying face down in the pool, right?
Yes.
In reality.
Yes. Yeah. So it's probably only happening for a few minutes in his, perhaps even a few seconds. Yeah, in reality.
And then it ends with peanut butter or something pulling him out of the water, or was it peanut butter?
No, that was no. That was a few seasons before he goes in the pool and is dragged out by peanut butter. So I don't blame you for seeing that. It was because remember he had to sell his house, so that's actually why he's arrested. One of the reasons he's arrested,
Right.
because he broke into the house.
Yeah, he breaks.
Yes, so it's the family that finds him. Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
Right. Okay. Now I am with you. This is also where. Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. I'm not what episode it is. When he gets the part of his poem where he starts expressing regret for committing suicide in the first place.
The view from halfway down. Yes.
Right. It was that that he's in the theater thing, right?
Yes, where they're sort of performing, then there's a door.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and then,
what a poem.
Yeah, and then, like, I remember, like, I kept thinking when watching that episode, what's behind that door?
Oh, and the scariest answer of all, nothing. Yeah. Nothing's behind that door. Right. There is no other side. That's what...
And all these people are just vanishing through there, like, this is their last performance in
that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the scariest line of it is when he's talking to Herb? I think it's Herb or something, yeah. And he's just put Herb's just I don't know if that's his name, but has just put his hand in the door, and sort of the oil or the goo is sort of taking him away, and BoJack says, "See you on the other side." And he says, "Oh, BoJack, no, there is no other side. This is it." And I remember, because the day that the second half of the season came out, I binged them all, just alone in my room, completely dark. I just remember seeing that, just this terror gripping my heart at that moment.
I like, holy shit, that must have felt like depressing AF.
Oh my word. It's the scariest thing ever. I don't think the scariest thing is that, that's my personal belief, that's the belief of many others, that, yeah, that is it. Like, that's not just... I think the scariest thing about The View from Halfway Down is that, in the end, it's not like a fictional monster or horror. It's something that happens to all of us. Perhaps not quite as it happens to BoJack, hopefully. But yeah, it's death, that nothingness. That's what they're trying to portray. And some people like Herb are happy with their life, because they've had a good one, they accept it. And some people like Secretariat, they had a sort of good life, sort of not, and they're not happy anyway. They just don't want to die, even if they had a good one. And some people
this is also related to that a lot of these characters wants more and will never be content. And BoJack is one of these characters that will never be content.
That's the question of That's the question of the last episode, isn't it? Will he actually ever be content?
Yeah, exactly, right. Because he at one point he has the house, he has the money, he has he has the Hollywood what's it called in BoJack? I don't remember what Hollywood's called.
It's Hollywoo for most of it, but it was just changed to Hollywoob. Okay, I still say Hollywoo.
So he has everything. He has like the gigs in Hollywood movies and TV shows and all this stuff, but he still is not content.
Yeah, he wants to be happy. I think that's and he's not.
No, because he doesn't want to let himself be happy. He is he's
romanticizing his own sadness.
Yeah,
it's that he's fetishizing his own sadness. That's what's said.
It's also pointed out in the show by Diane, I think.
It's pointed out by all of them, I think, at some point. But I don't know. I think what I love about BoJack Horseman is that it doesn't give such a simple answer. Like, it doesn't just say he'll never be happy because of this, and it doesn't even say he'll never be happy. You know, like the very end of the show is basically saying maybe he will, maybe he won't, and maybe he will for a bit be genuinely happy, and then afterwards he'll fall back, and then he'll come back again. And you know, it doesn't say, yeah, there's not some sort of symbolic sort of this shows that in the end he will be a good person. There's not like an easy out that
No,
it gives you that so many TV shows, even good ones, can give. You know,
it is.
there's not like this way of. I mean, even I mean, even like Breaking Bad, like El Camino. You know, I love it, and um, spoilers for El Camino, I guess. I'm glad that Jesse is pretty clearly going to have a happy life. You
Well,
know, that's what it seems to be saying.
yeah, but
But
that's still not
mm,
definite because
yeah,
we don't know that in El Camino because
we don't know.
he's getting he got a new identity and he's going to Alaska as a carpenter. Does Jesse even know any carpenter skills? I don't know. Probably not.
Well, he can do that woodwork, can't he? He
Yeah,
says in that therapy he can make that box.
he made a
Um,
box.
but um, but like, while actually realistically we don't know if he's going to be happy. The
And
show does.
and also
The sh-
don't forget that Jesse's character most definitely have post traumatic stress.
mm, like there will realistically be so many struggles, and it's possible. It's possible, but it's not what I think. But it's possible that he could have an absolutely awful life. But the show, the movie, is trying its best to say, with him smiling at the end, sort of a peaceful smile, and sort of this cathartic sort of thing he's been through. The show's trying to say, basically, despite the realistic things that could happen, he's going to be okay. And I'm glad of that. I'm glad of that because honestly, Jesse deserves a happy ending.
Yeah,
But I,
that's one of the things that the creators of the show actually said, or at least like regarding Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, that you need to all the time think, what does this character deserve?
but like, despite me being glad that he's going to be happy, it's still a great show. But a show falling into the trope of saying that, of sort of making a symbolic thing of this is it. Because of this, he's going to be happy. When realistically, life doesn't work like that. You can have this amazing sort of story that sort of seems to point to you being sad or point to you being happy, and you can go the completely different way. And I really like that BoJack, at the very end, that BoJack sort of says that it says that there is no that like we briefly DM'd before, that sort of his fate is open, that it could go either way, and there's no simple answer. You can't just say, oh, because of these sort of symbolic, sort of romantic ideas of sort of how a story narrative should work, he's going to be fine or he's going to be bad. It's not such a simple answer, and I really like that BoJack Horseman didn't fall into that trope.
Yeah, yeah. That's true, and and if like if we just leave it where the shows end, just like in Breaking Bad, then I guess like we could say that it's laid up to that he's going to have a happy life or ending, because it could be that like that finally he has actually learned from all of his
It could be, yeah, but yeah, I
because
just.
because I mean to like say like how many times can you go into rehab and then eventually even prison before you realize that maybe something I'm doing in life is not the right thing, or something that you like start actually reflecting on this.
Well, I think I think the show goes to great lengths to say that you should keep trying.
Yeah.
You know, that just because you fall on your face, you after rehab you relapse again, you should get up and you should try again. You know that it's not the answer isn't that you will never have you will never succeed. The answer is sometimes you're going to fail, and that's all right, because it's not. You can keep trying, and tomorrow is a new day. I think what Diane says at the end, life's a bitch, and sometimes you survive anyway. You live anyway. I can't remember the quite you, and then you keep living. You can continue anyway. So even if so it's an ending that doesn't offer any sort of easy outs whatsoever, but it's such a realistic one.
Yeah, it's like it's at least saying you can't gain anything by just laying down and waiting to die, right?
Yes, exactly. You can't just say, "Oh, well, that's it. I'm never going to be happy, so why even try?"
Yeah.
Because, well, then you are going to be unhappy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not being naive, and it's not saying that, say, rehab or deciding to turn over a new leaf, that's not going to magically solve your problems.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it anyway. So there's a balance between optimism and naivety.
Another great thing about the show is that you know that almost every character is like struggling with their own problems. And something that was like very subtly put in there was, you remember when Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane gets a divorce, and he shows up like at this party to BoJack or something with his new chick girlfriend.
Yes, the pug. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, the pug, which like is like something again like 30 years younger.
Muffins, yeah.
And then we have like this flashback where.
Oh yes, and he's with all the other ones as well.
He has brought a new
again and again
to the same party to BoJack.
Yeah, BoJack is definitely not the only problem with. Not the only one with problems on the show.
And then man, like the show just had so many holy shit moments that start like when Mr. Peanut Butter brings Diane to Labrador Island or something.
Remind me.
And then, if you can follow me, and then Peanut Butter leaves, right? So this is his brother.
His brother, I remember this. Yeah.
And then he leaves, and then like
he suddenly says this depressing shit.
Just like out of the blue, some depressive stuff. Too.
I know.
And you know, like, what about do you ever like think about sometimes you just want to kill yourself or something?
It's like like the universe, has a hole, and I'm just being suffocated. And you're like, okay.
And you're sitting there, like you're thinking, like, where the hell did this come from?
Yeah, what am I supposed to respond to this? What is Diane supposed to say here? Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You can just imagine yourself in that very same position. Like, what would your response be? Like, what?
Yeah. I think. How do you think that they handled Todd in the last season? Because he's been through his character arc. He's had some problems. Do you remember?
He's been through the ringer.
Yes.
Definitely, and had his ups and downs. But now I need to think. It's like so long time since I watched the show. But didn't he end up pretty much exactly where he started? No,
well,
exactly.
sort of.
He did get that settlement lawsuit, so he did have $1 million or something. But
oh dear, he probably lost it again. But
I mean,
no,
he spent it on some. He spent it on some stuff.
Yeah, I think no. He ended up sharing a flat or a house with his girlfriend. So I think he's doing pretty all right by the end of it. He's reconciled with his parents.
Right.
And that's, I think, the only sort of really noticeable thing that I didn't really like about season 6 was that was sort of brought out of nowhere. Like sort of he hasn't talked to his parents for a while, and then he does reconcile with them, and that's it. There's no like, I don't know, plot twists. Like, I don't know, like the mother was actually dead, or
Wasn't it his stepdad and mother?
yes,
Yeah, right.
yes, it was. Yeah, it was just it's a bit of a shame. I feel like it could have, I don't know, something a little better could be done, but it's not a big thing. It's just
no, but
yeah.
like his character was like always a side character in the show.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't need such a huge,
And he was shout out to Aaron Paul, by the way, because
Oh yeah.
he played Todd or did his voice great.
Amazing voice acting there.
Amazing.
Oh, I watched BoJack Horseman before I watched Breaking Bad, so I was so scared that I would only be able to hear Todd's voice instead of Jesse Pinkman, and because I'd heard that, like, I don't know, like some really sad stuff happens to Jesse Pinkman, but all I would be able to think of would be like Todd and his wacky shenanigans. I wouldn't be able to take it seriously, and after a few episodes I didn't have that problem, but yeah.
Oh man, I just had like a flashback to the spaghetti strainers.
Oh, I loved that. Yeah. It's just, they just completely abandon realism with Todd, to be honest. And I think that's probably why it didn't hit so much for me with Todd, his big thing at the end, because, like, I don't think he really needed one.
No, he didn't.
Like, I think
they could easily just have like skipped that and focus like more. But like the thing is that Todd was like a very, very simple character.
They give him more. I think that if I were, I think what I would have done if I wanted, I would have focused more at the end of the fact him coming to terms with his asexuality and him finding a girlfriend who's also asexual, and I thought that was really sweet, and I think I would have, if I was leading the show, which I'm glad I didn't, because I wouldn't have been able to make anything nearly as good. But if I was, I would have probably focused on that, because that's sort of more I'm not going to say light-hearted, but I think it's something that's like been built up before. Like, it's not just brought up this sort of season as a thing, and it's sort of, and it has very much a happy. It's just a sweet way to end it. Something which he is three-dimensional with. Like, it's a great representation, and it's this thing that he's been looking at, and he's working out. I think if they'd have made that the final thing, and him, getting his own place, if they'd left that as like his last sort of character arc thing, I think that would have been a light-hearted way to end it off.
Well, with Todd.
Yes, with Todd.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like maybe that could have like been more light-hearted. But that's what's great about that show is that it's not afraid to touch down on
For sure.
on the dark side.
No,
It's not afraid of like exploring that and all this depressive shit and how people are not content or BoJack is not content and all this stuff. So yeah, like in a way, I will, I guess, like the show also like reflects a lot of like real world problems. Because there are
definitely.
There are definitely a lot of people out there exactly like this that has everything but are just sad because they want to be sad, they want to feed on that, and
Well, I think there's so much you can see of yourself. I mean, even with Mr. Peanut Butter, I can think, when I feel sort of sad with myself, do I aggressively, sort of hold people to put them on a pedestal and sort of take it out on them, but sort of in a way of sort of idolizing them. Even like characters like Mr. Peanut Butter. yeah, there's sort of a mirror that you can see for anything in uh, real life, and even though it's half sort of spaghetti spatula sort of Todd nonsense, but then it also has in between that, yeah, there's so much that you can actually apply,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
heightened reality.
most definitely.
Mm.
Um, how did it actually end for Diane? Because I didn't feel like Diane was happy at the ending.
I really did.
You did?
I really did. I thought that it was absolutely.
Can,
I thought that. Hmm?
can you remind me, like, what was the last scene? Wasn't the last scene with her on the roof talking to BoJack?
Yes. So the final scene was her sort of explaining that she decided to go with Guy, her boyfriend. Well, actually, not boyfriend anymore. Go with Guy to Texas to live with him and actually to get married to him.
All right.
And yes, and yeah, and it was sort of them on the roof. She was sort of saying, in without actually saying it, that this was the last time they were probably going to talk to each other because she wanted to cut off ties. BoJack wasn't healthy for her. She's glad that they met and that they had their time, but she, it's not. It's too toxic a relationship. It's sort of her saying goodbye and making these efforts herself to have a happier life. So I think it's very much
Really, that's how it ended with like her
yeah.
saying that he was toxic and
Well,
pretty
not in so many words, but like yeah, basically saying, I can't be dragged down by you. I'm happy we had our time, and
yeah, yeah,
yeah. And there's so much, the final scene is just them there in silence and so much they could say to each other, but they just can't and they sort of know it already. And that's it. That's the end. And it's really bittersweet, but I think at the end of the day it is showing it's Diane taking steps to be a happier person. So I think that as much as you can have a happy ending on BoJack, I think Diane is happy
yeah,
in the end, even if it's a sad scene she's ending on, where she's
yeah.
basically forcing herself to say goodbye.
It is. It is.
Mm.
Well, like another messed up episode with her was like where she went to Vietnam.
Mm.
Do you remember that when like Diane goes to Vietnam?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh
then they
dear.
don't say like a word, and it is like, what the hell, woman? Right? And eventually, like, going out
That was
and
a strange
dating,
one.
yeah, and dating that American,
Mm. American man who's like
yeah,
working on a
working on
Hollywood
the movie
film.
set, yeah.
Yeah. That's a bit of a strange one. Yes, she's definitely not in a good maybe not a great mental state at that point with what she's yeah. I think
Pretending that she's a
mm,
native and don't speak the language and are just like nodding at
oh, yeah.
everything he says.
Mm,
Oh man,
it's
yeah,
like yeah, even with things like that, it's sort of it's like it's so cartoonish, but it's also her trying to find out who she is, and discover sort of yeah her
but
heritage
how,
and what it means to be Diane.
but
Yeah,
like
and doing it in a not very healthy yeah, doing it in this ridiculous way,
like
which is
okay, like let's say that it would be the same as if like you let's say that like you were adopted from some Eastern European country and you decide for some reason to go there and find yourself, and then you get like a girlfriend that speaks your language, but you just pretend like you don't understand crap of what she's saying and are just like nodding.
a bit bizarre. I think it's yeah. I'm finding it quite hard to imagine that, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh man.
uh, but yeah, do you remember Good Damage? It's one of the season 6 ones where she's on antidepressants, um, and she's trying to write, but she can't. So she goes off the antidepressants for a bit to try and write, but it's still not working. It just
All right.
makes her.
Yeah. At this point, doesn't she live with that guy?
Yes, she lives with Guy.
Yeah.
Literally, Guy, not bad
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, that guy.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that was also like a disturbing episode, and also
well,
like
with the animation, I love it
yeah,
when BoJack makes the animation all weird and sort of shows them their minds. I absolutely love it when it gets a bit creative.
yeah.
But yeah, I love
Okay,
that episode too because again, it's breaking that sort of story narrative where it's like that there's good
no,
damage, that
it
sort of like trauma makes you more, that there's a reason for it. When actually, sometimes bad things happen and they suck, but and they don't make you better. They don't, they're not like sort of something that like jumpstarts you into this story of using it to be a better thing. Sometimes they just suck, and you just have to try your best to walk away from it and sort of and do what you can.
yeah. It is that like let's like check out this episode because it starts with that they are watching some kind of like game called the Chicago Baby Humans game,
Yes,
right?
I remember that.
And then he tells her that she should try like a Chicago style baked potato, and
Chicago style everything. Yeah.
and that's like that those two words like Chicago style is like what triggers her some
Mm.
like
Well,
something like insanely
it's
OCD.
plastic, loads of plastic
Yeah,
in
like
the air.
why does everything has to be Chicago style? And it's like obvious that we are in Chicago. And then yeah, it is the fork and knife that you were talking about that was individually
Mm.
wrapped in plastic, and
Which
she
is a
goes
lot of plastic, to be
and
fair.
yeah, but then like she goes on a rant on how the plastic industry and how the baby humans are owned by the CEO of Plastico.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah,
a
yeah.
confusing character that like why would you let all these small things get to you, right?
Well, it's that I don't know. I see a lot of myself in Diane, in that it's that sort of that pushing yourself and everyone else to this high standard that you can't possibly actually aim to reach. I mean, there's a lot to be worried about in the world, isn't
Yeah.
there? Like, if you think, I mean, right now, it's a little more than a week before the American elections, which is going to be a huge thing. That's something that you can definitely be worried about. There's a lot. Um, global warming isn't going away anytime soon. There's so many social and environmental and economic issues that sort of pose real dangers, but you have to balance that with also realizing that you can't do everything, and sometimes it's okay to be happy
Well,
anyway.
it yeah, and
And that's
like
what Diane
I would
struggles with knowing.
I would say that how big of an impact are these things for you as a person? Because, like for instance, for you as a person or anyone in America, for as a person, I don't think it has a lot to say who's ruling the country.
Mm.
Regarding that, like who it actually affects are mostly like big industry and
Well,
those.
I definitely um, I use that as an example. I think it's quite dangerous to use politics as examples. I don't want to get into
Politics.
talking about Donald Trump while trying to talk about
Yeah. Okay.
BoJack
Okay.
Horseman,
Okay.
even if it is a political show. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, but even scrapping that example, whatever you think, there's it's that Diane's sort of view of trying her best to do good things and to make the world better. She struggles with knowing when to turn off, when to stop, because sometimes you can look at the world and you feel like you're drowning, like you're that there's just so much hatred and ignorance and anger, and that it's just too much. And yeah, Diane, I think just her sort of realization and just her sort of character arc of realizing that yes, that's true, and we can work to stop that, but you don't need to be ruled by this. You don't need to be defined by the badness that comes from a world or from your past. Or I really, really liked that sort of message, and that she's deciding to be happy even when there's so much sadness and madness out there, that she's deciding to be happy anyway, and sort of
wait. 2 seconds. We fell out there for like a couple of seconds. I don't know why,
yeah,
but we're back on. No problem.
that's all right. Sorry, but yeah, just I really liked that that character arc she had. I think that a lot of people can relate to her even more than BoJack, perhaps to some people, and I think she deserved her happy ending of sort of choosing to be happy.
Yeah, she was still one hell of a confused individual, though. Like how did that episode end? Because like didn't it eventually Princess Caroline goes to Chicago, right? To talk to
Yes.
her and get
Well,
her.
I think they both go to Minnesota or somewhere. They've gone to see BoJack's play.
Yeah, right.
And yeah,
Yeah, you
they're
go ahead.
talking about how. So Diane, she wanted to make this book, sort of about her past, and you know how she felt separated from her family, and basically the trauma she went through, because she thought that I can use this to help other people, but she was struggling to make the book, and instead she was finding she was making this like more detective story. Do you remember?
Yeah,
Yeah, and she's saying, if I don't make this book, then there was no reason. If I don't make this book, talking about my story and like helping other people in that way, then there was no reason for that trauma in the first place. That it wasn't to help me make this book. It just sucked. And yeah, Princess Carolyn is saying, yeah, maybe there is no reason, and that sucks. But you can still make this other book. You can still help other people in this way instead. By this silly more detective story, which will have good morals and characters.
that's right. Creating a role model for
Mm.
for younger
And
clients. Yeah,
and even if that means that there wasn't like this secret, deep meaning for her having this horrible childhood, that's okay, because she's not there anymore, and she doesn't need to be defined by that in the same way that she doesn't need to be ruled over by the badness that happens with corrupt corporations and politicians. She can decide to be happy anyway.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Mm.
that she makes the choice in the end.
Exactly. She doesn't need to be defined by it.
Yeah.
So I think that was an amazing arc that she had.
She finally agrees on writing the Ivy Tran book.
Oh, that's what it's called. Have you looked it up?
Yeah, I've looked it
I'd be impressed if you just knew that from memory.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't know that from memory.
No.
And then the final scene of the episode is apparently that Todd heads outside the theater with Rufy and sees BoJack talking to Charlotte on the phone. He tries to congratulate BoJack on the showcase, but BoJack, who is hyperventilating in panic, then faints. Todd yells out his name. I think that like what he was on the phone about was Sarah
It was
Lynn.
about reporters.
Yeah,
right.
Was looking into Sarah Lynn.
Yeah,
and
they
figured
were
out.
looking.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so a bit of a downer end to a lovely episode. Yeah, but sort of where it's all because before the hiatus, they had this. The final episode of BoJack Horseman was him getting out of therapy and sort of getting a job at a university, and everything was really happy, you know. And
And the
yeah,
result
that's
is
around
that.
the time when it comes crashing down again.
Yeah,
Oh, that's for penultimate episode. Yeah. So yeah, bit of a downer because everything's coming back to haunt BoJack again.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right. Um.
I think.
Oh man, did I was like thinking about that girl that BoJack was stalking. Remember?
Charlotte's daughter.
Yeah. Holy
Yeah.
crap, man.
Oh dear.
That was just so insane.
Oh, messed up. So messed up. Oh my word. That whole. I mean, yeah. That's probably. I think when Charlotte comes into the boat
Yeah.
and sees BoJack, and I can't remember her name, but yeah, probably that's one of the most chilling f bombs. You know, because they can only use it once every season.
Oh, okay. Really?
Uh,
Really? Oh,
oh, did you not?
no, I
Oh,
didn't know.
so this is really interesting,
Yeah.
right? So, basically, yeah. So they can only use it once per season. So what they did, what the TV show did, is what the show creators did is they had it that whenever someone said it, okay, whenever someone said the f bomb, it would be sort of symbolic that their relationship with BoJack Horseman was permanently sort of ruined a little bit, like it was irreparable. It would never be as good as before. So, like, even if they sort of can still talk to each other, it's not great. So, like, when do you know when Todd goes on that big rant to BoJack? He's like, you can't keep, doing shitty things and feeling bad about it. Like that makes it okay.
Yeah.
He says, "Fuck, man, what else is there to say?" And that's sort of saying Todd's relationship with BoJack is now permanently ruined on some level.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then
Like he just ruins the relationships to everybody around him.
yes, I mean in the first season, it's Herb Kazaz who says it to BoJack. You know, his um, when Herb has cancer, may come to visit him, and
Yeah.
then BoJack sort of refuses to accept that Herb isn't going to forgive him. He says, "Now get the fuck out of my thing." Yeah, again, another relationship ruined. And then
Yeah.
Charlotte says it, another relationship ruined. And yeah,
Oh man.
so
I
you've got to rewatch the show and you've got to look at these things and think,
I gotta
that's
do
it,
that. I
that's what
gotta do
happened.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, knowing that, it's really interesting. It adds so much more power to the scenes, knowing what that actually means.
Yeah.
And if it's sort of a shame that they sort of wasted it in season 6. I feel they didn't. They sort of used it on quite at that point quite a minor character, but yeah.
By the way, I looked it up, man. Like her daughter's name was Penny Carson.
Penny, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
Man, like it was just like so creepy that like
Oh, for sure.
one thing is that he went with her and the friends to this prom and even bought them booze. Like God.
And it's sort of yeah. And what's so chilling about that episode is just it sort of happens like slowly. Like at the start, it's sort of, oh, he's being really sweet, he's taking to a prom, and then, oh, well, he's being a bit cheeky with the alcohol, but it's sort of a thing. And then, sort of, as it slowly gets, like, it starts getting more. But he's sort of pressuring them a little bit, right? And oh, this is a bit dangerous. And oh, what are you doing? No.
Yeah.
What are you doing with her in the boat? It just gets more and more until you're like, oh my word, this is so messed up, and yeah, it's so tense.
It is, and he just keeps pushing it because, like, I was like also like thinking like, what the hell, when he brings Sarah Lynn to the college where she's studying to stalk on her.
Oh, that Bender, yeah.
and she and
Um,
she and she sees him, and he's like also wearing
and
these like
probably opens
stocking.
up loads of
Yeah.
emotional. Yeah.
and, and he's even like wearing, like those typical stalker clothes,
Oh,
like
it's
a
so
hat
messed up.
and
It's
like,
so ridiculous.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's funny in how ridiculous and stupid it is, but also, oh my word, poor Penny,
Like
Like,
what was he thinking? And also like
well, they were on that bender, weren't they? Like, he was
they,
basically hoked up on drugs and alcohol and,
right,
like, kept on blacking out, and that's why.
and also
To be very fair, I don't think sober BoJack would have done that. I mean, that's not an excuse, but I don't think
no.
that sober BoJack would have done such a stupid thing.
He also keeps
Oh.
trying to call her, right?
Mm.
But instead of like saying anything, then all she's hearing is like it's breathing.
Oh, it's so... I just... it's... I'm laughing, but only because of how terrible it is. Like, can you imagine being in it? I don't even want to think about being in that situation. Oh my word.
Yeah, so, oh man.
Mm.
Definitely one of these episodes we're like thinking like no, don't go there, don't do this.
Oh dear. I mean, isn't that every single episode of BoJack Horseman being no, don't do that.
Yeah.
What are you doing? No, and he does it anyway.
Yeah.
Even as you're screaming at the TV for him not to be such an idiot, like taking the second interview, or yeah.
Do you remember that like he's actually bragging about this in an AA meeting, and like I'm the worst one of all of you because listen to my story.
And again, that's like what's so interesting is even though he claims to sort of like hate that he's a bad person, like you do get these hints like there that sort of he feels like him being like this, this scarred, sort of traumatized, like dark-souled, sort of broken person makes him interesting and sort of makes him special and different. And it's like I don't know if you remember where in the fifth season when he's sort of tripping on his pain meds and he has that song with his vain girlfriend where it's like, don't stop dancing till the curtain calls,
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. Again, that's like it's talking about how sort of it's sort of cool, how that's his thing. He's sort of a character who he gets sad. Why not turn your sadness into a brand? And like life would be boring if he was happy and if he was like good. And like there are all these sort of hints showing that he sort of, even as he hates it, he fetishizes his sadness. He sort of he thinks it's part of him, and he sort of, in a sense, he thinks it makes him special, and that's one of the reasons why he keeps relapsing into that state, because deep down, part of him thinks like the idea of like a tragic actor drowning in his pool is sort of cool for his legacy, or that the fact that he's so messed up meant that he made an amazing book about himself,
Right.
and just all these hints. And I think that's something other people can also look at. I don't know if you've ever sort of thought, I don't know, if you're feeling really down, or you're encountering something tough and you're sort of thinking, I'm such a bad person. Sort of playing into the edgy anti-hero thing, you might sort of romanticize it a bit. You might sort of think, well, the fact that I have these sad, depressive thoughts, or the fact that I encounter these problems, it means I'm a bit different, and it means I'm a little bit special. And even though that's like a wrong way of thinking, and you might know it, you're sort of deep down thinking it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
And
definitely.
I'm glad you're saying that. If I was just, it's not just me.
Nah,
You
no. I think like
know?
I would say that anybody saying differently would be lying.
Mm,
All right,
yeah,
because like at one point that is what you would be thinking.
mm,
It's your like brain trying to tell you to try and process it a different way. So if you
yeah,
haven't thought in it that way before, then who's to say that you can't think that way another time?
yeah. And like again, that sort of Diane's thing of sort of good damage.
Yeah,
Of that actually this badness has a reason, and actually maybe it doesn't.
yeah.
Maybe bad things are just bad, and good things are good. And just because you're good deep down doesn't mean that you shouldn't still just do good.
No,
Maybe
like
things are that simple
yeah,
that you
like
just
nothing
you
is
do good because
pre-written.
it's good.
Yeah,
But there's not like being like having a tragic backstory or sort of being a complicated person. That doesn't excuse it, and that doesn't make you interesting. That's just sort of that's something you need to fix, and that's okay that you need to fix it. That's okay that you're struggling from it, but it's not something good.
no.
Yeah. How much time do we have?
Like I was like thinking we can start ending it in the next couple of minutes because we are also almost on an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe we can like fall back a little bit to the ending for BoJack.
Yes.
Getting
I.
out, getting out of prison.
Mm,
And
I.
yeah,
I.
I think that the first person that he talks to or that picks him up is Princess Carolyn.
Mr. Peanut Butter, I think.
Mr.
He
Peanut
talks to
Butter.
Mr. Peanut Butter drives him there. Then he talks to Princess Carolyn, then Todd, and then finally Diane. I think.
Yeah, but when he gets out of prison.
Yes, when he gets out, because Mr. Peanut Butter drives him from the
All
prison
right,
to
okay.
Princess Carolyn's wedding.
Right. That's the end of it. Right.
Mm. I don't know why I remember this stuff. I haven't watched it for a few months. But yeah.
And he's like saying and showing that he's like really reflected upon his life in prison. And that he is optimistic about the future because he's like thinking about like maybe getting back to acting.
Mm-hmm.
But
And yeah, and maybe that's a good thing, and maybe it's not.
no,
And that's sort of again open to interpretation.
yeah,
And personally,
yeah,
I don't think he should be anywhere near acting again. But I don't
no.
know if he's going to be able to help himself. I think.
He should have like maybe like found like a regular job. And
Yeah.
Because I think that a character like that, it would have helped a character like that becoming more grounded.
Stay sober and make a new life. If I had to give him directions, I guess I would say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, a new start, and this time keep on at it. It's I think that's. Do you remember his mum's funeral? That episode where it's just him giving one big speech.
Right. Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, he sort of he talks about how. Yeah, it's not the big grand gestures that mean things. It's doing it again and again and again. Right. And I guess that's the best he can do. He can just every morning survive, live, do what he can, know? And it doesn't have to be a big thing, just consistent. Yeah.
I was going to say that, like, it turned out that he was holding that speech for the wrong funeral, right?
Oh, yes. It's ridiculous. Just that whole thing. You've got to imagine just the poor, what was it, lizards or something. They're just watching and thinking, what the hell? What? Confused out of their minds. Oh.
Great humor in that show, for sure.
Amazing. Oh, I feel like we're talking about how sort of deep it is or whatever, but we sort of forget it's a really funny show, isn't it?
It is.
Like,
it is.
It's really funny. It packs in so many puns and so many, stupid moments.
And it manages to balance this darkness and
with the
comedy.
Silliness, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't...
Right on the edge there. Perfectly
exactly. It sometimes it goes a little bit, but yeah, most of the time, yeah, it can make you be laughing crazy one moment, and that doesn't take away from the punch that you feel, a few scenes afterwards, with something really, emotional.
Yeah,
It's amazing how it manages to balance that.
yeah, yeah. It truly is.
And I
Yeah,
think it needs that laughs for
yeah.
being cathartic.
Who
Yeah.
who voiced BoJack again? That was Will Arnett.
Will Arnett, yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen anything of him, like in movies?
Yes, I have. I think this is what I know him from. I know him from Arrested Development, mainly, if not from BoJack. That's what I know most from. I don't know if you've seen Arrested Development. It's very
Nah.
funny.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix if you want to watch it. I'd recommend it.
I might need to check that out. Yeah.
hmm
Um.
Um,
I remember him from a comedy movie called
Blade.
Let's Go to Prison.
I haven't seen that.
That's a
But
great comedy movie.
all right, I'll look that up.
Like yeah,
He's also Lego Batman, of course.
he's also a
You can't
Batman.
forget that. Yeah, he's Lego Batman in the Lego movie, in the Lego Batman movie.
Okay.
Because he's got such a deep voice.
All right. Right.
I love that movie.
I do think that he did a great job as well as
Yeah,
as voicing BoJack.
definitely.
But
I think that
yeah, like you're saying, man, with the ending, that it was definitely an open ending, and the only
I think
thing that could choose if he's going to be happy is himself.
exactly, and it's not that it's not that he makes one choice. It's not that he makes one thing which will turn his life around. It's making the same small choice again and again.
Yeah,
Of like staying sober, of being nice to people, and not being discouraged when you trip up. And
so
yeah, I think that's a message which isn't told enough because it's not very dramatic, is it? That's the problem. That's why TV shows don't often show it. It's not like this dramatic way. It's a very mundane and realistic way of it's the truth, and the truth can be a bit mundane and not very dramatic or not very narratively satisfying, but it's the truth, and I love that BoJack Horseman countered it.
yeah, yeah.
Mm. I
Well,
think one last point,
yeah,
which is just that I think it's worth sort of saying that so Netflix, so the show creators Raphael Bob Waxberg, I think that's his name. He wanted one more season, but Netflix didn't want that. They said that season 6 will be the last one, so he sort of had to rush it a little bit, and I think some characters do sort of go through their arcs quite quickly in this season. I think it could have done with one more to maybe not rush it so much of BoJack going into therapy, going out, relapsing, then coming back. And I think it's a bit of a shame that Netflix didn't give them that final season, considering how amazing the show is and how popular it is. But you can't really fault the creators for that, for thinking it's a little rushed around the end. It was out of their hands. I think that's something to mention when talking about the ending.
yeah. It is. I don't know how they really plan their shows, but they have an enormous budget, man, on music TV shows. Like they spend, I think their budget is something like $11 billion a year.
Yeah. I mean,
which is
Netflix
crazy.
can afford it. It's a powerhouse.
Of course, but
And
can you
quarantine's made it even better, more
can
successful.
you imagine, like the meetings where now, because there's a whole hell of a lot of shows on Netflix that they produce.
Oh, for sure, they span them out like nothing. I think it's sort of a shame because sometimes they can make for every masterpiece or like amazing show they have, like Stranger Things or BoJack Horseman. They've got like 20 other shows which they've clearly just pulled out of their ass. Things like
Yeah.
I don't know.
they
too
are
hot to
throwing
handle or
they
something,
they are throwing like 20, 25 horses out there, right?
and seeing
Uh,
what
and
sticks.
see what
Yeah.
sticks and comes back or
Which,
wins this race. But like I'm like thinking it has to
which
be like
can
some.
be good.
Yeah, which can be
Yeah.
good, but it still has to be like some enormous. Imagine this meeting, like
Mm,
we're going to argue now, and that this show gets so much money, this show gets so much money, right?
yeah.
And it will always end with like that. Some shows doesn't get the
Mm.
resources it needs to become a
It
good
just
show.
it feels like such a shame because just when it comes down to it, people don't just go on Netflix because they think, oh, there's a lot of shows. They don't care about the fact that there's like 30, and I don't know why I'm saying it again, but too hot to handles, these sort of candy shows we sort
Yeah,
of who watch because there's nothing on. They go to Netflix specifically. There's such a hook on the ones that made Netflix a household name, like Stranger Things, or like they think, oh, because The Irishman, Scorsese's The Irishman is coming on there. It's things like that and BoJack Horseman that make people really want Netflix and not just any other sort of streaming service that can have any other sort of binge-worthy amount of shows to sort of wade through. And I think
yeah,
it's such a shame that they're not that they seem to be really great with giving the creators a lot of not interfering so much from what I've seen, but also just when they do things like that, when they sort of they just let a show go just for so that they can put the funding elsewhere. I just think that's such a shame, and I think that's not recognizing why people watch the
no,
Netflix
I
and
agree. I
why
mean,
it's so
like
great.
look at HBO that puts
Mm,
heart and resources and money down on
mm,
every freaking show they make.
yeah, and other streaming services are catching up. It's like Amazon Prime now they're making these really high quality shows like The Boys. I don't know if you've seen that yet.
Oh yeah,
I'm watching
I've
it.
seen The
It's
Boys.
yeah.
I haven't watched the last two episodes though of the
I
season two.
I've barely started, but I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah,
They're making these shows which are also just of sort of this sort of amazing. A lot of work is put into sort of things that you might even think I'm gonna get Amazon Prime just to see this. The other streaming services are catching up, and it doesn't matter. It's not the sort of the trash, the hundreds of shows that
yeah,
Netflix can spew out, which is going to keep them. It's going to be the good ones, the big ones, the amazing ones that are art, like BoJack Horseman. That's what's going to keep them as big as they are.
yeah. It is. And, it might be like a good thing because it's creating like competition on the market.
Mm-hmm.
And the pressure up so that so that they're going to have to like think at like one point like what can we do to
Yeah.
create the most high quality content
Mm.
and compete.
Mm.
Um,
I definitely think it's good that there's another high profile industry that a creator could go to instead. If one's not giving them enough creative control, for instance, I think it's good that there's competition, which means that the services are forced to up their game and make quality content. I think that's good, but yeah, it's complicated again,
for
isn't
sure,
it?
man. For sure, it's complicated.
If only there were easy answers for everything.
Yeah. All
Oh,
right,
well.
I'm going to end it here.
Right, it was
And
great.
I
Great
wanna, yeah, it was great,
talking.
and I'm looking forward to do like another episode on another TV show or Breaking Bad.
Mm, yeah.
Um, and for those guys that are listening to this and still hanging on, then I hope that you will subscribe. And that was that, I guess, to all my 34 subscribers. Peace out.